Hello and welcome to Dream Big. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm Hannah Viviers. Today we're going to be speaking to Suzanne van der Walt. She is the founder and director at Direct Flow, an education and training company. But the focus of this interview is going to be an organization that she started called Eagle Flight Ministries. It's a non-profit organization. And what she's doing with this work really is to raise awareness for lupus patients here in South Africa. About 280,000 people or more suffer from the disease in the country. In 2010, Suzanne was pretty much told by her doctors that she had 2 months to live. 2 years later, she's still here. She's going to be sharing with us her story and why it is important for her that people in this country know about this disease. Thank you so much for joining us, Suzanne.
Thank you, Hannah.
Suzanne, I want to go in right first to start with Eagle Ministries, because to even start to talk about what it is, there's just so much to it. So I'd like you to tell us what it's about.
Okay, Eagle Flight Ministries was started in 2010 due to the fact that I was diagnosed with lupus in 2005 and had tried all the medicine in South Africa for lupus and was searching for a support group as well, and did not find anything to help with my lupus. I started Eagle Flight Ministries as a support organization for lupus patients and their families, seeing that it's such an unknown and such an invisible disease that South Africans don't know about it, and the lupus patients are so alone. And we started Eagle Flight Ministries to be that supportive system for people that have lupus in South Africa, because there isn't any other.
I want to go back to before you start the organization and you find out that you've got lupus yourself.
Yes.
What were the red flags that told you that something was wrong with you?
First of all, I had a very, very, very sensitive skin, and I would get blisters on my hands, and I would get rashes over my mouth and mouth ulcers, and my hair would fall out, and night sweats. And a lot of the time the doctors tested me for allergies and said there was nothing, and they would say, if I said, you know what, I've got this chronic fatigue, there's something wrong, please help, I don't know what's wrong with my body, they would say I was working too hard. And that was a fact, and that is how the whole thing with lupus started. And I was admitted to hospital. This is the way how I got diagnosed. Is I was admitted to hospital, and then they suspected, because I had vasculitis on my hands and on my feet. They suspected.
So what would that be? Is it
that's
blisters?
The blisters? Yes.
Yeah.
They suspected a lot of diseases and didn't know what it was. And when I was released from the hospital, I had to wait 6 weeks to see the doctor again to start because she only treated me with steroids, and I had to wait 6 weeks to get to see the doctor again. And I said to my husband, you know, I am at a point in my life where I cannot wait. There is something drastically wrong with me, and we have to do something.
How do you imagine that with all of that and not getting the answers other than you being that sick is just a panic? Because usually if you know what's wrong, then we can do something about it. But if you have all these symptoms and you're not getting to the bottom of it, that must cause quite a lot of anxiety.
Yes, it's a tremendous emotional roller coaster that you're on, and you don't know what's going on. And a friend of mine was a dermatologist, and I actually phoned him and said, can I come and see you? And I said to him, and I explained all my symptoms to him, and he said to me, I think I know what it is, but I'm going to do some tests first. And he did the blood tests, and that afternoon he phoned me, and he said to me that he said, you've got lupus.
Okay, so you find out that you've got this now, and now you're in a campaign to get yourself better, nothing is working. Mm-hmm. What happens then?
I signed up to the Alliance of Lupus. That's an organization in America that has a lot to do with the research of lupus and the news on lupus and everything. And I was sitting in front of the computer one night, and the email came through. And I read this email, and I was telling my husband they're onto something, because I could understand what they were talking about, and it was making sense.
So now they sent you this email talking about, I would imagine you'd say, the medication.
It was a medication, the first medication developed for lupus in 52 years. And it was Benlysta. Now, then it was only in the medical trial phase. And I said to my husband, this medication, they're onto something, this is going to work. And I followed the medical trials. And on the 10th of March 2010, the FDA registered Benlysta.
So now you get this information. It's now registered in the States. It's not registered here in South Africa. No. So what do you do?
In August 2011, I went to the doctor, and they did some tests, and they said that they gave me 2 months to live, and said I would not see December. And we got a medical emergency visa, and I was on the plane, and I went to America, and I got my first infusion.
You were so emotional the first time you and I spoke about it, of just the doctor saying to you, you've got 2 months left. And now I can see it again, just how emotional you get. What was going on in your mind at the time? I would imagine with anybody getting that kind of news, how devastating it must be. What was going on in your mind when the doctors, they're pretty much saying to you, 2 months and that's your life over?
I think one of the things that made me stronger is my faith. I think, I had been in ministry since 1998, and I said to the Lord, you know what, I have been in your service for so long. This can't be happening to me. This cannot happen to me. And you have to face the idea of not seeing your children get married. And the fact that you have to face these things, I think I actually absolutely went in overdrive of fighting. Giving up is not an option, because I knew the people of South Africa that suffer from lupus is depending on me and nobody else to get this medicine. So that was my motivation, and I was looking at it from that perspective.
So you end up in the States now, because I would imagine it must be quite a complicated process, because you're not a citizen of that country. Yes. I don't know how it works. Yes. But what was the process for you to eventually get the treatment that you needed?
It was so much hard work, and I think, God had blessed me with such a husband that had so much fighting spirit in him that there was no way of giving up. The people that had developed Benlysta at that time had to get special permission to be able to treat a South African with that medicine. And yes, and we got in contact with the rep, and the rep sorted out, and it was all these legal proceedings and stuff. They had to get together their lawyers, and Nico just kept fighting, and please help the woman, please, she's doing it for her country, please just help her, and Nico fought for me. And the doctors as well, they had to get special permission from their lawyers as well to treat a South African. And in such a short space of time, we had to fight so much just to be able for them to treat me. And also, getting all the letters together and everything together for the American consulate to give me a medical emergency visa was such a process and such a fight. And that's where I thank God for Nico, because I wouldn't have been able to do that, to go through all that, and I was so ill.
So all of this process has happened. You now can get the treatment. What happens?
After my first infusion, I did have a bit of a fever and stuff, but that night Nico and I sat in a hotel room, and I grabbed a package of chips, and I opened it, and he was like, he couldn't believe that I had the strength to open a packet of chips.
And I think for some people, for most of us, when you hear about the strength to open a packet of chips, I don't think you realize that for a person like you, that is almost an impossible feat to just open a packet of chips. What has that treatment, I mean, other than the fact that you're sitting here
Yes.
2 years after doctors said you were going to die, you're sitting here, that already is proof enough. How did that change your life from being bedridden most of the time?
You know, this drug has changed my life. I have my life back. You know, I can run my business, and I can run Eagles Flight Ministries, the 2 passions that I have in life. And I don't have that much pain anymore. You know, living with lupus is constant pain. And people don't understand what lupus patients go through every day of their lives. I mean, every day, the moment you step out of your bed, that is the moment you start fighting. And you just fight because of all this pain. And you know, some of them have children that they have to take care of. Some of them have households. You know, some of them don't work. Some of them must work because they cannot afford not to work, because they have to pay for their medicine. They're cutting on their grocery bills to get the medicine that they need. It's such a devastating illness. And I don't think people, because a lot of the time outside we don't look ill, you know, and inside they're ill. And we get treated badly in ERs, you know, all over the country in the emergency rooms. We get treated badly, you know. Lupus is an incurable disease. It's an invisible disease with so much power. It could be like this and you're gone. Then you would suffer from kidney failure, have a heart attack. I mean, it's so much, numerous things that can happen to you tomorrow and it'd be over for you. And nobody cares about that, you know. Not nurses, not doctors. They don't care about that because they're so unfamiliar with this disease. You know, according to them, it's an autoimmune disease that you get in your muscles and stuff like that. But they don't realize how devastating this disease can be. And that person sitting out there in the emergency room might not look ill, but is very ill, and they don't respond. And they don't care. People don't care enough in South Africa about the disease.
For a lot of us that don't really know much about lupus, just explain to us what it is. What is going on in your body to make you that sick?
With a normal person, your immune system fights bacteria and viral infections, whatever comes into your body. But what happens to us, our immune system turns around and fights our own body. So it attacks your organs, your heart, your liver, your kidneys, your lungs, you know, and then also your skin. They have terrible skin ulcers. You have mouth ulcers. You lose your hair. You know, there's so many symptoms. And then also the pain involved with it, because I mean, you have arthritis because that's one of the symptoms, and then you get pleurisy and pericarditis, which is inflammation around your lungs and your heart. Can you imagine what type of pain those people are in?
But you were saying to me that a lot of lupus patients are very, they really spend a lot of time in solitude and wanting to be on their own.
Yeah, they do hide because of the way they look. If they have discoid lupus, some of the SLE patients, they have discoid lupus as well. Which is
what would that be?
That's the skin lupus, discoid lupus. SLE is systemic lupus erythematosus, which is the inside one. And sometimes you have both.
Like you have both.
Yeah. First of all, they hide away of the way they look. And then also, they hide away because of the fact that people don't understand them. Their family struggles to understand them. We operate a lot on social media so that these patients can reach us without having to speak to us, because a lot of them we counsel, you know, over email because they don't like to talk over the phone. Some of them will phone you and speak to you over the phone. Some of them, you know, will want to see you in person and sit person to person. But most of them want to hide away because people don't understand them.
When you talk about people not understanding, the people closest to them sometimes, you said sometimes it's difficult for them to even have their own families understand what they're going through. So I want you to talk about, you were saying how sometimes you have to counsel the people that are on your database that have lupus, and you talk about the spoon theory.
Yes.
I want you to talk about that.
The spoon theory was developed by a lupus patient herself, and what happened is, she had a friend, and the friend knew she had lupus, but she wanted to know what it's like to have lupus, and she took a bunch of spoons from this restaurant, and she took them together and say, for example, you have 12 spoons when you're a lupus patient, because you get tired very easily and there's a lot of things you can't do. And she explained that, getting up in the morning and getting ready, that will take 2 of my spoons. And she said, then I'll go wake up my kids and make their breakfast. She said, that will take 2 of my spoons. Then I would put on makeup and do my hair. And she said, that would take 2 of my spoons. And so she went through her day. And after lunch, she had already reached her number of spoons. And she said, that is what I have to be careful of, because I don't have enough spoons for a day, because I've got lupus. So every little spoon counts for me. And if I don't make sure that I have all my spoons left until I go to bed, that's when I get ill. That's when my body gets overtired. That's when I can't operate. So I'm looking after my spoons. And it's become a joke in our family, I don't have any spoons left anymore. Help me,
How do you help other lupus patients to be able to, for their families to understand what they're going through, and for them to be able to go through this? Because it's, on the one hand, you have this physical condition. On the other hand, you have to deal with the emotions of having this physical condition. So it's like you're fighting a war on 2 fronts.
The physical part of it is you have to fight that, because you cannot let the pain overcome you, because that's when it medically gets dangerous. Because if you give in, that's when it becomes dangerous. And I think the fact that the emotional side is what I always try and work at to my patients is emotionally make them warriors, motivate them so that they're emotionally strong to cope with this illness. And it's difficult in the sense of when they have had a lupus flare, they're down. But the thing is, my job is to pick them up and to tell them, you're not giving in to this disease, because you're a warrior. You're one of very few. You're a lupus warrior, and you need to stand up and fight this disease. And you also need to inform your family. We have a document that I've written on the support for families and friends to explain to them what lupus is and the need the lupus patient might have, because we need an infrastructure. If we don't have an infrastructure, we're gone. And to explain to their families. And the most important thing is for them to get emotionally stand up, to get them to stand up against this disease. And then secondly is to get their families to understand, and putting them down and saying, what, I have got lupus. This can happen to me. This is how bad it is. But you know what, I'm fighting it, but I need your help. You will need to help me.
Other than what you're doing now in terms of just support and counseling, is this big fight that you have to have this drug that saved your life registered here in South Africa.
From the start that I came back from the US, I started fighting to get Benlysta into our country. And it's been taking a lot of fighting to get the pharmaceutical company to put it up for registration with the Medical Control Council. And thereafter, it's going to be another fight to get the Medical Control Council to register it, and then the fact that to get it to the patient.
I don't understand why it's not being registered, because obviously this is a drug that is going to help people.
Yes, I don't understand whether it's red tape or politics or whatever it is. It's just been such a battle to get them. And they have told me, November they're going to submit. And I'm standing and waiting. Because the moment that they bedded it to the Medical Control Council, it's up to our next step.
Just to give an example, I suppose, or a picture to people of what's actually happened on the ground. You say that you know of a 17-year-old who has lupus, who's been institutionalized now because it's attacked her brain, and now psychosis has set in. And for me, I think one of the worst stories that I heard from you was a 3-year-old that passed away because of lupus. When you hear stories like that, how do you just manage to be able to continue counseling, to continue doing everything you're doing when people are, because now it seems as though the lupus community is looking to you now and saying, okay, my kid's institutionalized. Another family says, well, their child has passed away now. How do you manage all of that?
I think the heartbreak of every story is difficult. The pain of the family, because, you know, I've been there, I've done that, I've got the t-shirt. It hurts me so much. But, you know what, I turn that hurt into fighting, you know, and I get angry at the pharmaceutical company for not registering it. But it just gives me so much more passion to fight for this, because I know that, you know, people will live because of this drug.
So when you were sick at that time and you were bedridden before you went on the medication and your husband decided to leave his business, you said it was because he felt that direct flow, exactly what you're talking about now, was a calling. I want to talk about your husband, because you talk a lot about him and how much he supported you. And I talk about this a lot because I think I've blogged about it so many times, about how important it is who you choose to marry.
Yes.
And it seems to me that you picked the right guy.
Yeah. He's such an awesome man. And you know what, he just takes a responsibility for me, you know, and it's an amazing man. He helps run the business. You know, he takes the children to school, he buys the groceries, he organizes the cooking, he basically does everything. And
you said there were times that he'd had to resuscitate you?
Yes, where I would stop breathing. And he just kept on. He just kept on and kept on and kept on and kept me living. Because he said that he was not giving up.
What is having the support that you've had from your husband, what has that meant for you?
You know, there's a lot of times where I have told God that, you know, if he hadn't sent Nico to me, I wouldn't have come as far as I have. Because I know if it hasn't been for Nico, I wouldn't have. And God has placed him in my life for a perfect purpose. And it's just that, you know, I know he had to be there. And this was God's plan all from the beginning, you know. And without him, I wouldn't have lived. I know that.
I want to talk about your daughter, Jade.
Yes.
I got to meet her today.
Yes.
She's beautiful, extremely intelligent. But I can imagine that our kids, especially when they come to age where they know what's going on with us, I can imagine that it's not easy to have to live with your mom, and your mom needing that much help and still being a child and being able to process that. For you, you've shared with me some of the things that she's had to do for you, you know, that a lot of children don't, because their parents aren't struggling with what you've had to. But what is she and her presence just in this journey that you've been on? What has her role meant for you?
I think the fact to fight, to keep on living, you know, it's a great part of it, because you know that if you're not there, there's going to be that part of their life missing, and fighting for that as well, because they need you. They do, and they have to be so much stronger than any other child out there, because they have to face this day and night, and taking responsibility where they shouldn't. But Jade has done it amazingly, and has kept strong amazingly. And as I told you before, I'm very close to my brother and his kids as well. They're almost food like my own. And they've all been such strong little people, and somebody once told me, during my whole emotional thing, when they said I was dying, told to me and said, you know what, kids handle these things better than we do. And I think that was the thing that I kept with me all through the whole thing, because I was so worried about them. And I think, they have all become such strong people because of this. They have grown above the level of their peers because of the trauma they've been through.
What would you like lupus patients to know in terms of, because it seems to me as though you've looked beyond your disease, you've had to fight. Yeah. Boy, have you had to fight from what you're saying to us. But at the same time, you seem to be living your life. You seem to have this thriving national business that is doing so well. What would you like to share with them, just for them to be able to, and I don't mean to be flippant when I say this, but to be able to look beyond the lupus and still live this life where they're fulfilling their purpose the way you are.
If you're emotionally strong, you're stronger to fight the physical side. So looking past the disease and looking past, see how you can help other people. And if they get in the frame of mind where they are the warrior and not the victim of this disease, but a warrior to fight against it, that is when you go beyond what lupus can do.
What is your dream for Eagle Flight Ministries?
My dream for Eagle Flight Ministries is to get Pinlister in this country, so that every person in this country, every person with a medical aid, without a medical aid, every single person in the rural areas, wherever, no matter what, your color, your skin, your race, nothing matters to me. If you've got lupus, that you can receive Pinlister. That's my dream for Eagle Flight Ministries.
Is there anything you want to share with us that I haven't asked you, but you think at the back of your mind, oh, Hannah, I really want to say this? Is there anything that you have in your mind that you'd like to share with us?
God has made everything in this life. He's done everything. I have done nothing. He's been my inspiration and my strength and my guidance and everything to be able to do what I do. And even in the days when I'm down, God is the one that steps in and just fights for me. It's amazing how that song has become a reality in my life. For as long as I shall live, I shall testify to love. And that's one thing that I still wanted to say, yes.
Oh, thank you so much for joining us, Susan. We really wish you the absolute best.
Thank you, Hannah, for having me.